Well, fellas, I got to tell you, I just absolutely love the LP. Well, the music. I will say LP. I'm a big vinyl guy, so I got to say I just absolutely love it. I'm Troy, by the way. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you,
Craig.
Troy and Craig. Hey, Craig.
Yeah, we've been playing the heck out of you guys on the Garage Door program. Just have a blast with it. If there were any justice in the world, you guys would have a top 10 single. By God, it just pisses me off. Pardon me, my anger's showing.
It's hard to argue with that, right, Sal?
It's always nice when people like it. We certainly had a good time making it, that's for sure. So,
how long ago did you guys record? Was it before the pandemic or during or?
It was during, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it was during. It was actually the beginning of this year when we just decided. We'd known each other for a while, more or less sort of email pen pals in a way. Sal and I actually hadn't been in a room together. Actually, we hadn't been in a room together even when we recorded the thing because it was all recorded during the pandemic. But
oh wow,
I had a song where I said, we would once in a while trade some song ideas, and I said, oh gee, this is one that I might run by Sal and see what he thinks. And I said, Sal, what would you think about playing some guitar on this? And he said, I love this. Let's make a record, So basically, we just started to toss in songs into the bucket from there, and it really came together amazingly quickly. I said to Sal, and I'll say it again, it's the easiest record I ever made. It pretty much wrote itself and recorded itself in a way. Very fortunate that way.
Well,
yes, same here.
Sal, sorry.
Yeah, same here. Maybe it's the way that we both went into the project. It was, if it was just my thing, I'd be a little bit more obsessive compulsive about it. And I think, and knowing Dan, that goes for him too. But somehow when we did this together, the writing came easy and the recording came easy. And maybe it's because it was the two of us, Dan, you know what I mean? We knew that if we ever got obsessive compulsive together, there would be some sort of
it would be like some sort of black hole
tsunami of
multiverse.
It was. I think partly I agree with Sal. It was partly just the trust we had in each other to just say like, I know I'm going to send this over and I'm going to get something amazing back. And so I would hear the ideas I sent over where I would have a particular direction in mind and. If I were doing it myself, I know how I'd have played it. And Sal would come up with something totally different, mind-blowing riff or something amazing, 12-string thing or something like that. And I'd say, well, this is nothing like I would have thought of, but man, it just blows the song right out of the water. It's just, and so it was just great. I'd love waking up to, a package of downloads from Sal to figure out like, well, let's hear what he did, and the guy's a machine. Like he would churn out all these riffs and say like, here's 12 tracks, use what you want. It's like, wow. Okay.
Wow. Well, it sounds organic. I mean, it sounds like you guys toured this album. I mean, I really mean that. It sounds like you guys, have been doing it for a long time, but I'm amazed that it was just really this year.
Yeah.
Of course, I know you both are veterans of a couple other bands we played on the Garage Door before. Am I saying this right, Craig? The Shang Hi Los, is that right?
Shang Hi Los, Watts, I'm horrible with the names.
Well, the Amplifier Heads.
The Amplifier, that's it. That's it. That's the other one we played. Yeah.
Yeah. And and you guys should play if you haven't yet is the Stompers, which is Sal's original.
We have not played the Stompers, but I'm going to.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And when I even started to work with Sal, I had to pinch myself because the guy's a Boston legend. I was sort of flattering myself to send him the song and think you'd even give me the time of day to play on the thing, So, but check out the Stompers if you hadn't, because that's the sort of cream of the crop.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's that was when I was a teenager. I started that band, and it was a long time ago. I think the Edsel might have been the car.
Oh, it wasn't that late.
I'm not quite sure if the cylinder had been invented yet.
Well, we always like to ask. We always like to ask this question: major influences, fellas. I mean, who would you say? I mean, I definitely hear power pop in there, and I love it. I mean, I'm a Beatle fanatic. Say hi to Ringo there. Hey, Ringo.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I mean, I think a lot of Dan and I, we share a similar musical DNA, and yet and yet they are different in some ways. Only because of time, I think, maybe, and age.
Yeah.
But you want to go first, Dan?
Well, I mean, I think, I sort of grew up in the, I had an uncle who was in a rock band when I was a kid. And so at 5 years old, I was already listening to like Zeppelin and Yes and, Nazareth and all this stuff, the Who. So I was steeped in that stuff at an early age, and so, but then I sort of grew up in the 80s when it was sort of hair metal and stuff. And I was in a band, a sort of glam band back in the day and stuff, big shaggy hair, trying to keep the shag as much as I can.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, man, you got to do it, right? But so I think Sal's right. I mean, I had that early influence, and that stuff is definitely in my roots. But then, I sort of discovered the Ramones and sort of early punk stuff, and a lot of the glam bands of the 70s, Dolls, obviously, but Kiss and Aerosmith, and then the metal stuff that followed. So, and then but always had a foot in the sort of real, the British invasion stuff, the Who as they sort of ventured off into new directions and stuff like that, but steeped in that stuff. And so I think when we got together, while there was some difference there was a very small bridge to gap, in terms of where Sal was coming from and where I was coming from.
Yeah, it seemed to kind of mix.
Well.
I mean, the mix is perfect. Yeah. I think. Sorry, Sal, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it worked well. Having a little bit of a different, Dan coming in from a slightly different place, but then at the end of the day, it all came together as melodic rock, But I grew up, I was there for the Big Bang,
Yep.
the Beatles and Stones and Ed Sullivan and all that. I was a young kid. I had an older brother, 8 years older than I, so he was like 14 at that time.
Perfect.
So I got everything, all those records were in my house. It's 1965, I had the single of Like a Rolling Stone. Those things tore my head off, Beach Boys and just, all the Beatles records, the Stones, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, and then, and then a little bit later when I was starting to buy records, in my teens, I enjoyed British music always played a big role in my my musical DNA. I just some connection to it. I don't know if it's the melody or what it is. I mean, I have a love for American music as well. I mean, Phil Spector and Brian and all the great American writers. But that's where I was coming from. And then, when I was in, 71, 72, was in school, in high school, the second wave, I like to call it the second wave of British music came, and that was like Bowie and T-Rex and
Humble Pie.
Mott. Oh, Humble Pie, yeah. So I throw them in with Zeppelin and, a little bit more of the bluesy bands for sure. Yeah, Humble Pie. The one thing I love to do to Dan all the time is we'd be talking about a band and I'd send him like, yeah, so in 73, I was at the show.
Oh, man.
Stayed open for Humble Pie at the Music Hall in 1973. I love to do that. So, he's like, that T-Rex is great. Yeah, I saw them. They Boston Garden.
Just rubbing it in.
Hey, they opened for 3 Dog Night. We had to go. Yeah, we had to go, man. New York Dolls, we went. I was still in school. We went to see them at a club in Cambridge. It was just so all that stuff, and although the stuff that sparked Dan, like the Ramones, I had already kind of developed my musical DNA by then. But I think they're great. I love them. I love that band. Just fantastic.
Well, I think Boston, though, Sal, at that time had a really dynamic music scene too, both as far as the clubs were concerned. I mean, there were a lot of bands. You could go to a club, from what I've read, Is that true, or am I?
It was amazing. The end of the 70s. Well, actually, it started in 75. I got in there to play in 77, but it had already started in the mid 70s. And by 78, it had just exploded everywhere. Out of Boston into the burbs. Bands were playing, 5 nights a week and playing original music. It was just crazy. Yeah. But, it started out at just like 2 or 3 clubs in Boston, the Rat, everybody knows that, Cantones. And then it spread out, to the Channel and other clubs. And then it went out into the burbs. It was quite a time, very different than today. It was like, it was the end of cover bands and everybody wanted to hear original bands. I mean, when I hear myself say that, I think to myself, that must sound completely foreign to a young person today.
Right.
And that's a shame. That's a shame. I'm hoping that one of the bright spots out of this pandemic will be smaller venues playing newer bands or bands that are doing their original music. I mean, I'm hoping that's the bright spot out of this, that there'll be more venues. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, you could go to the roller rink and there'd be a band there playing. That kind of stuff, and that's how a lot of bands got their chops up and were able to play. So I'm hoping that's one of the bright spots anyway. Sorry, I don't mean to be a downer. Sorry, Phil.
No, it's true though. I mean, it's funny, of course, sort of keeping with the spirit of what we're, there's a little bit of reminiscing in the album and the lyrics, that sort of reflects a sort of golden era of rock and roll in a way, right? That is sort of missing from today's scene. What are kids into these days? There's you used to have that anticipation of your favorite band and getting the new LP and opening that thing up and having the smell of vinyl and, all that whole thing. And now it's like, it's all there and kids are interested, there's other distractions, there's other forms of media to keep them, occupied. And then for music, there's not much mystery because you can find anything you want within seconds on, the internet, right? So there's no sort of magic to that. It's like, oh, that song, let me go to YouTube and I'll find it like this. And it's like, it's there for you, whereas back in those days, we were like, oh, there's an import and like, how am I going to get my hands on this thing? And like, wow, have you heard that? It's amazing, So there's, that I think both Sal and I were sort of, when we started the first song I sent them was Johnny D's, right? Which is about the demise of the club scene in Boston, right? Yeah. And the song and the song is about Johnny D's the club, but multiple clubs that were already closing before the pandemic. And then of course the pandemic came and then, a tidal wave washed over. And then like, a bunch more, half dozen more clubs that we love to play at are gone, more spring up in their wake, but they're getting fewer and fewer, and so it's tough for a young band to find a place to play today, So I think the record reflects a lot of that sort of nostalgia for a golden age of rock and roll and the difference in today. I mean, it's a different scene, and who knows? I hope you're right about the what comes of it. And there's a new spark. There are some good young bands out there that I'm seeing now.
A lot of great new bands. Yeah, there are. It's just hard to hear, and they're lost in the corporate shuffle. I hate to say them like that, but but like you guys, again, that should be a top 10 record, no question about it in my book. I mean, and hopefully that, keep our fingers crossed, but I'm hoping that does happen. That craving, being together, sharing this joy, sparking joy. Well,
okay, no, but that's the thing right there. I mean, in our conversations and in writing the music, we'd have this conversation over and over again. I'd say, when I was growing up, rock music was the center of our culture.
Yep.
It's what everybody, in school, like, hey man, did you hear the new Zeppelin record? Or are you going to the concert tonight? And then, everybody be on a train going to the Boston Garden, and you'd see all these people that from school, and everybody's going to that concert. And then the next day you talk about it. You could even think about that for when the Beatles were on Sullivan, we were all still wearing crew cuts. The next day in school, everybody's got one little thing. I mean, so literally overnight, it became, the center of culture, at least in my group of people, my friends,
Us too. I mean, us too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I know that I'm talking to people who understand that. I know that, and that's why I share that. And I think that's missing. That's missing. And going to a concert, you haven't seen them live, maybe on the Midnight Special or something, or in Circus Magazine or something. But then, you go into the hall and the lights come down. Even before that, you're looking at the amp line and you're going,
oh yeah,
this is beautiful. It was just so romantic and exciting to me. And, I just kept doing it. I just kept living in that thing,
Oh yeah.
And here we are making a record. It's
so cool.
a beautiful thing.
Thank you for living there, both you guys. Thank you. You know what? I think it's that shared culture, and that's what we try to do on the Garage Door. We want to share things. This is good. You know how it is when you find, okay, Johnny Cash. Okay, I found this Johnny Cash 45. You got to hear this. It's the B-side. That shared love of culture. And to me, I hate to sound kowtowing to you guys, but the Kicks, it sounds like it. It's there. There's hope and love and rock and roll and a little bit of a attitude. It's part of rock and roll.
You do that on the video. Well, we appreciate it. Yeah, man, we appreciate that. The joy for me now is, I'm with Sal. I sort of, when I was a little bit younger, I figured, well, how long can I be doing this rock and roll thing? And the older I get, the more it's like, well, screw that, man. I'm doubling down and not tripling down at this point, And so I feel like I'm, and particularly working with Sal, putting out some of the best music I've ever created. And I have more passion for it and more fire in my belly to sort of get it out there than I ever have. So when guys like you pick it up and say, you know what, I really like this. And, I want to share this. That's like the most flattering and sort of what makes it all worth doing this stuff, is that somebody out there, it resonates, because that's, as a musician and a songwriter, that's what you want to do. You want to have somebody pick it up with that antenna and say, I understand this, I get it, and that's just such a joy.
We're glad you guys are still doing it. That's
and radio, for whatever that means today, it has a different meaning today.
Oh, yeah.
But there's people out there now. Because on regular radio, you're not going to hear this anymore. You're not gonna.
Corporate radio sucks. I'll just say it. Corporate radio sucks. iHeart can suck it. Pardon my language.
Yeah, it's a dead issue. Because radio was so important too. That was another focal point of everybody. Like we would. I shared this with Dan. We would hook school and go up to the Prue in Boston with WBCN had moved to, and we'd go up and you could watch the DJ.
Wacky did that in Louisville.
So that was like a big thing. Man, we'd go up and see Max Ann and all these people playing the music that we love, and so radio was just as important as everything else, all the bands and everything else like that. So the fact that, there are people like you out there playing this stuff.
Still plugging away.
Because I was in that kind of groove of like radio's dead, man, and feeling pretty negative about it. And the fact is, as far as going in your car and putting it on the dial, as far as my music, it's gone, But
there's a few stations out there, Sal. But it's not broadcasting; it's narrowcasting. Like you're going to get that unless you can broaden it out. You're going to get that. It's narrowcasting, that specific group of people who are going to listen. So we're just trying to spread the word. We have a terrestrial show, and then we're on the internet too. So
yeah. That's radio now.
Yeah, we keep plugging away. There's the boss. Right?
I got the same thing. I'm like, hey, keep the dog down while I'm on this call.
I'm looking for my cat.
Well, now I'm hoping you guys. We talked to Gary Weiss from Cave Stomp, and he's done nothing this year, but he thinks in 2022. Have you guys ever played Cave Stomp? Do you know about it? Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't played it. Did you, Dan?
No, I haven't either.
Well, maybe that'll change next year.
Yeah, we'll throw it to Gary. We're in contact with Gary and Muck. You're on the same label as Muck. Do you guys know?
Oh yeah, I know Evan well.
Yeah.
I've known him forever. Linda, I mean, I was in high school and playing in bands, and Linda was the drummer. And
oh wow,
it was So it's like we have roots that go way back with them.
That's awesome.
We're friends. I mean, the great thing about Rumbar Records is that it's family. You know, it's family. Lou from Rumbar and his family are like best friends of my family. We hang around, we break bread. And most of the bands on the label, Lou does it because he's passionate about it. And everybody on that label, you know, with very few exceptions. I mean, there's some now, he's actually been so successful. He's signed some bands from Canada and from other, you know, but all the bands that are sort of, that have been around for a while, we're all friendly and have known each other and played in different bands together. And it's just, it's fantastic. And he just does it for the passion of the music. And it's great. I mean, I think, you know, when you talk about where you find the gems in music today, you know, a label like Rumbar is where you look, you know, just such great stuff.
Oh, we agree.
Well, Dan, if we could hit you up here, we would love to interview Joe. I mean, and talk to him, you know, about Rumbar, spend time with him, because this next show we're coming up this Saturday is dedicated pretty much to Rumbar Records, the artist on Rumbar.
Oh, cool. Well, I can put you in touch with Lou and we can, you know, make that happen. Lou, Lou will be thrilled. I mean, I saw him last weekend, as a matter of fact. So, you know, I think he'd be thrilled to do that. And he, you know, like I said, I mean, he appreciates, you know, the support that he gets out there. We've done well. I mean, the label's done well, and I'm really flattered that the band has done well, and the other projects I've been involved in on the label have done well. Sal's also got another project. His next Amplifier Heads record will be coming out on Rumbar Records.
Oh, very cool.
I think it's October now, Sal, or next month.
Yeah.
Which is also, I'll give a plug to my bandmate in the Peppermint Kicks. The Amplifier Heads record is, from what I've heard, sounds fantastic. Which you won't be surprised to hear if you like what Sal did on this record. So, you know, Sal makes great music.
If you don't mind, if you've got any promo singles or files that you could send our way, we'll play that.
Glad to play them.
Absolutely.
You guys are in the Golden Spotlight this week, actually, with the Strawberry Girl song. So,
yeah. Oh, cool.
Wow. Yeah.
That's one that Sal started a long time ago. We finished as we were sort of gathering up the material for the record.
Very cool.
A blast. That one, I love that one.
Yeah, as we were doing the record, I said this to Dan. Every time we do a tune, I'd say, "This is my favorite song on the record," and then we'd do another song. I'd say, "Oh, this is
that one
right here," you know. And as we were getting closer to the end, what we thought was the end was "Hey Fanzine," and I said, "Oh, this is my favorite." And then he came back with, I gave him "Hey Fanzine," and then he came back with "When Rock and Roll Met Your Dad." I'm like, we could keep going. But Strawberry Girls, while we were recording the record, I remember that song. I had started writing it a long time ago, but I didn't quite finish it. I didn't get the lyric right. And I thought, mate, this might be a great one. So I made a quick demo and sent it to Dan, and he loved it, and which gave me the push. You know, that gave me the push to and then he arranged the drum. He played an unbelievable bass part on there. It's just crazy. And I like that one.
And I love, I mean, what Sal would add to some of this stuff too that I loved. It's like, you know, there's all sorts of keyboards and strings and all this stuff that Sal would do. What do you think of this? Like, and I'd be like, kitchen sink. It's like, I think Joe Strummer was like once, you know, at that time when the Clash was at their height, they'd be like, you know, give me the balalaika. Like, I'm going to play the best balalaika on this thing. And I go, this is the attitude we have. It's like, what can we put on this one? You know, Mellotron. Like, let's put the Mellotron on there. You know, like, what else? Glockenspiel. You know, like, yeah, Glockenspiel. It was more Glock. But it was just so fun to do it. And I think that's, you know, the spirit of the thing. So while it's a little bit, you know, nostalgic in a way, it's also just joyful. You know, it's joyful.
Yeah, I think it's current, Dan. I don't mean, I'm not. I think it's current. Yeah. I mean, to me, it captures vibrancy and that just grabs my heart. I mean, you know, so that's thank awesome. You. Love the cut. Amazing. But who played all the instruments? Did you guys play drums too, or did somebody else playing drums with you guys?
Well, you know, I'll just say this real quick. He'd send me the demo of the tape, and I'd be like, "That's a great drum track." He'd write back to me and go, "Well, that's just me playing drums on a, you know, that's me. Don't worry about that. We'll get a real drummer." I'm like, Sounds pretty good, Dan. But then we got Chris, and he just he sent it home.
Chris Anzalone plays drums. Chris is he plays with Juliana Hatfield. He plays with like Roomful of Blues. He's just an amazing guy. Done a lot of session work around Boston with like John Powhida, a bunch of different things, and he's amazing. And you know, this is a pandemic, and so a lot of musicians were sort of looking for something to do. And I said, you know, Chris, we'd known each other. We'd done some gigs together. Did a Mott the Hoople cover night a couple years back together, where Chris was on drums, and we said we got to find a time to work together and do some stuff, you know. So I said to Sal, like, I got this guy. I think he'll be great for it, you know. And so he had his drums set up in this little rehearsal studio with 5 mics on them, and all those drums are recorded in this little, you know, crappy rehearsal studio room with 5 mics. And Chris would send me, I just said, give me your best 3 takes, you know. And inevitably he would just, and he swung perfectly. I mean, you listen to Strawberry Girls, and like that's the epitome of how he plays, man. And like, or something like I Don't Hear a Single, like his playing on those things just makes the song swing just that little bit extra, you know, and perfect guy for it. And so we were really fortunate to get him to play.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to 2 drummers here too.
Yeah.
Of course, my
So
hearing
it,
is
yeah.
used to be.
None of ours is, right?
But now I guess you guys, Dan, you played bass, is that correct?
I played most of the bass on most of it. Brad Helene, who's another fantastic Boston musician who's played in so many projects and plays with Sal quite a bit, also played bass on Jag 72. But I played bass on the other stuff. Sal and I joke we're both like sort of closet bass players. And so I just really had a blast doing that. You know, I'm on bass on Strawberry Girls, and I'm just like loving, you know, doing all that sort of McCartney stuff and everything, you know, just a blast.
Oh, yeah.
But it was mostly us, just, you know, it was literally us, and it would be like a daily thing. You know, we were in this groove where it would just be like, Sal would send me something in the morning, and by evening I'd send him a bass track and you know, whatever back, you know, with backing vocals. And we just, you know, we both have a similar sort of studio setup where we're all self-contained here, got all the instruments we need, and, you know, we could do that. The thing that we really needed was the killer drums from Chris.
Right.
And then the rest was just us having fun.
That's got to be exciting, though, going, you know, sending files back and forth to one another, like, you know, just waiting until it comes back to you so you can add something to it.
We moved pretty fast. We moved pretty fast with that stuff.
And it did sort of ratchet because, you know, early on, like I sent this song, and then I think Sal was tested water. He said, oh, how about this song? You know, oh, that's a good one. Let me do that. And then Sal would say, oh, I like what you did with that. You know, like, here's another one. And we sort of kept upping the game. By the time we were done, like we had some songs that were contenders. We said, like, we can't do those songs. We need better songs. Okay? So then we wrote Hey Fanzine and Rock and Roll Met Your Dad at the end, and it sort of put the cherry on top, you know. But it was just fun to do that. I think it's like, you know, when you get too creative, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I think when you have two creative, you know, forces in a project like that, you sort of feed off one another, and there's just this energy and flow that happens. And, you know, I am just such a fan of Sal, and like, you know, just to see that process happen and like just get to sort of witness it and be part of it is fun. I mean, you know, I've been fortunate to play with a lot of great musicians, and anytime a musician comes back and does their thing, and or lyric and melody writer like Sal, and comes back and like, you know, is contributing to a piece of work that you're, you know, that you're putting yourself into, it's this amazing thing to witness. And so I was just, you know, really in awe of it. You know, and
you know, but it sounds trite, but I don't mean it in that way at all, but it works both ways like that. You know what I mean? I mean, Dan would send me like he'd send me, I Don't Hear a Single, and I'd be like, man, this song's fantastic, you know, and then I'd throw something on top of it. But, you know, that's just how it was, you know. I mean, it sounds a little bit like a love fest, and I don't want to get too, you know what I mean?
But I do, you know, I do think, you know, it's important to say, you know, it's like with the pandemic in particular, you know, there's a particular joy to be able to, you know, in a time like this when things are looking not so great, you know, and there was, you know, whatever, politics, you can think what you want, you know, but when things are going badly in the world around you, you know, to be able to have this sort of positive, joyful, creative output is just such a, you know, breath of fresh air.
It is amazing how music can bring people together.
Yeah. And you
it
find,
sounds cliche, but it's to me, it's bliss. I mean, it's what we're all about. I mean, the Church of Rock and Roll, and I hate to sound that, I'm not an extreme, I don't mean to get to religion at all. I mean, but it's my religion, you know, and this, you guys were able to capture that. So, you know, okay. Now we also have a little segment, if you guys don't mind, where we talk about your gear. If I don't know if you guys are gearheads or not.
Sure.
The band I play in, we're all gearheads. So, Sal, if you don't mind, what's the main guitars on the album?
It's a Nash Esquire.
Ooh.
With a humbucker in it. It's so. Are you familiar with Nash guitars?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. So you know, it's that was the primary guitar that I used. I think I might have used the Melody Maker on one tune or two, maybe Rock and Roll Rampage, but pretty much it was the Nash. And an acoustic guitar, I have I love it. It's a cheap Durango, $200 acoustic guitar with a big crack in it from rocking it, you know. Yeah, that was primarily my two guitars.
What amps, Sal? What amps were you running it through?
I have a Fender Deluxe and the one that works really good recording is a small Vox Pathfinder.
Oh, nice.
Because I can crank that baby, you know. It's not good for live, but recording wise, it's great, you know.
Sure.
Those are pretty much the two amps I use most. Yeah.
Dan?
So for guitar, you'll laugh because I have Gibsons. I have way too many guitars in the house here. I've tried to downsize a little bit because I had, 20 or so at one time. So, but the guitar I use for recording on pretty much everything I do, my main guitar is a Greco, Japanese Les Paul custom copy with Seymour Duncan old 59s in it, like vintage, the older ones. And it just has a warmer sound than any other guitar. All my Gibsons, whenever I put that guitar up against anything. Now I don't play it live because it tends to go out of tune more and stuff, and it doesn't, doesn't turn heads as much as some of my other guitars, But for recording, that's the thing, and that I stick mostly to the Les Paul. I have a 74 Telly. I'll pull out once in a while and put some stuff, and I got a couple other things that for specialty. But the Greco, it's like John Bloud, who's the guitarist for Watts, and I started collecting those Japanese Grecos and Fernandez and Tokais and stuff a while back. So I have probably 4 or 5 of those now.
Oh, wow.
That Les Paul custom copy, which is probably like a mid-'80s Greco copy, is just the one.
But Dan, those have went up. If I've noticed, those have really skyrocketed a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe, I'll have to sell some of those off to put my kid through college or whatever. But, and then, for amps, you guys will laugh. But, I have some nice amps that I play out with. Like, I have a Marshall Astoria and I have a Deluxe 64 Deluxe copy. But for recording, I go straight into an interface with, I hate to say it, but it's all Sims and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I've been doing that for years to record, because when you're recording in a little home studio and people don't want to be annoyed by what you're doing, you can't crank up the Marshall as often.
Well, I'll tell you what, none of the songs sound that way though. No, that are coming through that. So
yeah, well, the magic is to try to make those things sound as natural as you can, right? So, but I've been doing it for years, and so I know that I can plug in 4 or 5 good sounds from what I got. And most people won't be able to tell the difference. I mean, if you're really discerning, but I can't crank those things up to get the tone I need in this house with a mic in front of them to make it sound good. So the Sims it is, I need some feedback or something. I'll record the feedback for 5 seconds and then turn it off, go back to the Sim,
Now, Sal, did you do most of the mixing, or who did you guys?
No. I was just going to say I had to salute Dan, because Dan mixed the record.
Okay.
And he got the sounds on that thing. I would send him dozens of files, and sometimes I'd say, they might be too noisy, or they might, if something's wrong with them, see if you can fix them up or whatever. I don't know if he had to do that too much, but he mixed the record, and that's why it sounds the way it does, which is a good sounding record, man.
It is. I agree.
And you'd laugh if you saw what I mix onto. I have this. I mean, my interface is this old Line 6 UX2, which is like 2 inputs, and and that's I've had this, and I have this old PC that's literally like Windows 95 on it or something.
Oh, wow.
Like that. I've used it like it's almost like this sort of shrine at this point. Like, and I don't dare replace it because if like I change anything, it's gonna like crack the mojo or something, you know. So I'm waiting. One day that computer's just gonna crash on me, and I'm not gonna be able to. Then I'm gonna, oh, damn it, I gotta get a straight, a new laptop or something. But in the meantime, I use this old system that most people would chuckle at, you know. But, you know, to me, it's all in the ear. And like, once you sort of figure out, like, get out of your own way and trust your ears, you know, you learn a few tricks and you put a few plugins on stuff. And, you know, at that point, it's, you know, it sort of handles itself when people are making, you know, when you got good players and good sounds coming at you, it's pretty easy to make them sound good enough.
Oh, yeah. I think we lost Troy. He lives out in the boonies, so his internet isn't the greatest.
Yeah, see, this is the problems with Zoom interviews, right?
I know. Let me see if I can get him back in here.
This is how it was. You know, Dan and I, we were never in the same room while we made that.
That's crazy that you guys got that sound on that.
We finally, he came over like, I don't know.
We got ourselves, we did a live thing on a radio show, so we had to get together finally to rehearse for that. So, you know,
was that weird for you? You know, how weird was that actually playing together when you haven't done that?
It went pretty easily, didn't it, Dan?
You know, I mean, you're playing together virtually, even though you're not playing together, right? I mean, we sort of knew what we were gonna. Each of us like sort of knew what the other was going to bring anyway. So just funny, Troy. We were just saying that, you know, before we actually played together after making the record, we hadn't been in a room together for probably 3 years. I think the last time I saw Sal was at a gig we played together for like a holiday show somewhere in different bands, you know. And then 3 years went by. And we made the whole record, and then we finally said, "Well, now we have this acoustic thing we got to do. We better get together to actually rehearse it." Yeah, you know, the beauty of the you know, that's this thing. The pandemic is, you know, in some ways, as you said earlier, you know, it's a challenging thing, but you know, it creates avenues for collaboration and creativity that, you know, you may not have had otherwise.
Right. Yeah, because you guys might not have done this had you had the things hadn't been shut down.
You know, it's funny because that's probably right, because I was supposed to take a family trip with my family in December. And I think it was right around December where I was sort of saying, gee, I think I have some time for another musical project. And since I'm not going anywhere, maybe I'll send this over to Sal. If there's no pandemic, I maybe never send it. And there's no Peppermint Kicks. So there you go. Sal goes on
that's the one positive coming out.
No, man.
So where'd the name come from, guys?
That's Dan.
I thought of it. You know, it's like names are funny with that. You know, it's like naming your kids. Like, what do you know, all the good band names are taken, you know. I've gotten pretty fortunate. Like I came up with the bassist for the Shang Hi Los, the Jen Dangora ended up like hitting it on the head. I had something close to that. What about this? Yeah, that's it, you know. And then I was like, well, damn it, all the good names are. And then with Sal, I was just sort of throwing some stuff together. And you know how you do. You're like, you know, whatever, electric prunes or something, you know. You're putting together a list, and like this Peppermint Kicks came into my head, and I'm like, well, that must be taken. And I did all these searches, and there's not. You look at Peppermint Kicks, there's nowhere to be found. I'm like,
it is you
can't possibly be like that's just too good a name. It just had, and it hit the sound on the head, you know.
Yeah.
So I immediately sent over a list of maybe like 5 or 6, and Sal was like, that's the one. I was like, well, that's what I thought too. So
it has that early 70s kind of power pop sound to it.
Yeah. It's a great name. Great name. That was Dan's. And then it's not on the record. I wrote a song called Peppermint Kicks. It didn't light Dan up, you know, but no, that's just nothing bad by that. But it's on my new record. So,
and not only did Sal got a band out of it, he also got an extra
got a song out of it. Yeah. It's not like, you know, we are the Peppermint Kicks. It's not like that or anything. You know?
It was a good song. It was a good song. I actually, Sal jokes about that. He's like, he didn't like the song, and I actually can't remember. He sent me so many ideas. Like he thinks I rejected some songs. And I'm like, I don't think I ever heard that one. You know. No
offense taken, my brother. None at all.
Well, that's for the sophomore LP, you know. That's for the sophomore album.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what the sophomore LP will sound like. But I think it'll be like, you know, the Who doing My Generation versus Baba O'Reilly. I can only imagine the directions he'll take this thing, because, I mean, with Sal, like if you let him loose, like I think, so Rock and Roll Rampage is the last song on the record. And like, it just had this, it's got this just rock riff that's going along like Cheap Trick or something.
Yeah.
And then, I said, Sal sent it to me and, this goes the way we collaborate. And so I said, Sal, I really think it just needs a bridge. And so like he does this bridge that sounds like Queen or something, like, this, extravagant thing and all these strings. And I said a bridge, but I didn't expect a bridge like this, So I think if you unleash this guy, and we say, well, maybe we'll go a little prog or something, we'll come up with something.
Awesome.
Who knows what it'll be like.
Very cool.
So you guys,
that's how it works. That's how it works, Like I thought that song was done pretty much, Rock and Roll Rampage. Dan says, Sal, I hear a bridge in there. Why don't you write a bridge? And then I did, and the song became something else, And it also helped tell the story a little bit better too. The bridge lyrically,
Yeah.
So,
well, it's just fantastic LP. So as far as going. I know you can't really plan anything right now, but are you guys thinking about maybe this coming summer being able to hit the road a little bit, or have you thought about that at all?
You guys got anything coming up?
Yeah.
We got a gig October 9th.
In Roslindale, Mass, near Boston. Great little venue there. And it's going to be, the band is, sort of put together for the record since we played everything. But Chris Anzalone will be playing with us on drums and Brad Helene on bass. So we're doing the full band lineup thing. And right now it's tough because we don't know where things are going with the Delta variant and all this stuff. So clubs are sort of, tentatively booking things, and we're seeing how things go. So we have that, and we have something in November at the IPO Boston event. We're going to be doing most likely an electric duo sort of version of
that'd be cool
stuff. Yeah, because we're like, if you can't always put together the band you want for the killer set, we figure we can blast out the stuff on a couple of screaming guitars into Marshalls or whatever. And I think it'll be fun to do that too, And then, we'll see what happens from there in terms of doing other stuff. Love to go down to New York, and love to do some other, stuff in other places. We'll have to see what sort of shakes out, because I just don't know status right now with, the COVID stuff.
Right. Well, a lot of them. Oh, go ahead, Sal. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if something, opens up and reveals itself to us to go and do a gig, we'll do it. I mean, I think it'll be a gas, but it's hard at this point to just say, we're going to go out and do a bunch of dates and the venues that don't exist. And it's really, it's so strange, but I think if the right thing reveals itself, it would be a gas to go play,
Oh yeah, and we'll do all we can to promote you here in the Midwest too.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll throw it out, but again, let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope that out of this comes that reopening of venues. 500 seat, 600 seat places. The
new renaissance of rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I really am hoping.
I like that. I like
to be optimistic. So anyway, I do. Any chance you guys might record any of those gigs, or you feel just too new of a band? I mean, to do it, the live gigs you've got coming up.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some footage out there, whether or not we want to record them. I mean, that's usually the way it goes.
You can't do anything without footage somewhere.
I think it's going to sound pretty fantastic. I'm really excited. We haven't got together to rehearse with the full band yet.
I wish we could get out to see it.
Yeah. But I do think, I think there'll be others. I don't see this as like, a couple of gigs and out. I think, we got to just sort of get the lay of the land on the clubs. And, I think, and as Sal said, I think, we prefer to sort of, rather than just go out there and play every gig that's available, make events of them and try to, turn it into something
do a little
special.
recon. So.
And we're both, Sal's playing in his other projects. I'm playing in my other projects, which also makes it tough. It's like, are you booked on the 19th? Like, oh yeah, I got a Stompers gig. What about this? Oh, Shang Hi Los are playing over here, So it's, you got to work with that stuff too. When you're busy, gigging musicians like us, we got to.
Well, Sal,
that's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah. Sal, please send us that a file whenever it drops, and we'll be sure to play the heck out of it. If you guys, we've kept you for 45 minutes, but if I could steal, I like playing a little game. I just pick out some 45s out of my collection, and you guys say yay or nay, whichever one you choose. If you guys have got 5 minutes to spare me here, it's just
Are you playing either or, Troy?
Either or.
Either or.
All right, here we go. Molly Hatchet. I just grabbed these out of my collection. Molly Hatchet or Billy Idol, White Wedding or Molly Hatchet.
Do I have to pick one?
Yeah, you got to pick
Either
one.
or.
All you guys do.
Which one, Sal?
Well, oh boy, that's tough. Well, the Stompers toured with Billy Idol, so that's the reason I'll go with White Wedding with Billy Idol.
Okay.
I'd go Billy Idol all day long on that.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more.
By the way, the new Billy Idol song is pretty fantastic. Have you guys heard it?
I've not heard it.
Speaking of like corporate, it's actually really surprisingly good. Check it out. It's it's an older, a little bit mellower Billy Idol, but it's actually surprisingly good output from
check it out.
So, yeah.
Okay, we've got Jackie Wilson dogging around, or Buddy Holly and Ray Vaughan.
Ooh, that's tough, but I guess Ray Vaughan it just edges out only because I've covered that song a million.
Oh man,
but Jackie Wilson is great.
You can't go against Buddy Holly.
I know.
I love Buddy. Yeah, it's got to be Buddy. I love Jackie Wilson too, but in that duel, I got to take.
Yeah.
If it was Baby Workout, there might have been a little bit.
Very true. Very true. Love playing the drums of that. I think we're all in agreement there on that one. Okay, here we go. Another one. Here we go. I just grabbed these 45s. Lonely Teardrops or Long Tall Sally.
Oh.
Little Richard, the Little Richard one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be the Georgia Peach for me anyway.
It's got to be. I mean, if there was no Little Richard, there'd be no Peppermint Kicks. So.
That's true.
All right, here we go.
That's right, man.
I'm a Believer or Baby Scratch My Back.
Wow.
Ooh.
Jeez, so
the Monkees are Slim Harpo.
I'm just grabbing them, guys.
Right. So if I was trying to be cool, I'd say Slim Harpo, but
I'm not that cool. I'm going.
I was watching the
Monkees too.
When I was 8.
I don't blame you.
It's a great song.
Well, the flip side I like better than I'm a Believer, and it's Stepping Stone.
Yeah.
Both fantastic. Absolutely.
The Monkees take heat, but the songs were just so good. And the new Mickey Dolenz record singing Mike Nesmith songs.
Oh, amazing. The last Monkees LP produced by the late Adam Schlesinger. It was a great album. I don't know if you guys have it yet. It's just a great album. That was a big loss to me. I mean, when he passed away. But all right, a couple more. We'll be
great
done.
Writer.
Oh, this is great.
Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby? Standing in the Shadows, or Positively 4th Street.
Ouch. Ouch.
One or the other. Come on,
I got to go with, I'm mourning Charlie Watts. I'm going Stones.
Yeah, well, same here. But boy, that Positively 4th Street is a great tune, man.
It's awesome. I went through.
That's probably the closest one, though, right?
A lot of nerves.
Whenever a girlfriend did me wrong, I'd always have to sing that. All right, a couple more. We're done.
Yeah.
8 Miles High, or Larry Williams, Short Fat Fanny.
Man, 8 Miles High, but if it was Bad Boy or Slow Down, that might have been, but 8 Miles High for me. What do you think? Yeah,
I agree.
Craig,
I mean, it's great to do that just for fun, but it's just so hard when people say, what's your favorite Beatles song?
Right.
I can't do it.
I don't know about you guys, but it changes daily for me. Things.
Yeah, I've got a few that always come to the top, but it depends on what you're listening to that day.
Right.
I'm just grabbing out the 45 box here if there's anything else in here. Yeah, okay. That's kind of a hard one. Higher Place, Tom Petty, or Dylan, Watching the River Flow?
Woo, well, there'd be no Tom Petty If it wasn't a
Really?
club band.
That's true.
Yeah. Gotta
So,
go with,
Yeah.
which Wilbury is he? I forget. You got to go with
Lefty, I think. Isn't he lefty?
Lefty Will. You got to go with Lefty Wilbury on that one.
Well, fellas, thank you for hanging out with us here in the garage. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we really
Stay in
appreciate it.
touch. We'd like to come back, hit you guys up in a couple months, see progress. If
See
you
where
can
things
spend
are
15,
going.
20 minutes with us, I would love it.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Really appreciate you guys taking the time, and really thanks so much for your support of, us and generally, new music that's coming out and the indie stuff and, keeping this stuff alive.
Anything we can do to keep it going.
Yeah, please tell Joe to get in touch with Craig via the email because we'd love to. And if you talk to Joe about, Lou, gosh, why do I keep saying Joe? Sorry.
It's horrible.
We call him Joe.
Stop calling him that.
I'm going to call him Joe.
Give him an email later.
I think Lou would be thrilled, so I'll definitely send him a line on that.
Okay, cool.
And
Carry amps or anything like that, we'll make a visit. Just let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Nice.
I'll be a roadie. I have no ego.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it.
So much, man.
Have a great one.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.